You're watching another great interview on Audio Inc. Radio. What is up? It's Anne Erickson from Audio Inc. Radio. If you're new here, welcome. It's great to have you. And please subscribe. Also give this video a big thumbs up. Albert Bouchard is our guest and original member of Blue Oyster Cult. Let's get in.
Hi, this is Albert Bouchard. You are watching Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio.
Well, hey, Albert, it's great to see you today. How are you doing this crazy year where everything is kind of upside down?
I'm doing okay, Anne. It's nice to be on your show here, so I'm happy about that.
Very exciting that you have a new release on the way, Imaginos. And
Yeah.
tell me about the concept behind this and how you're reimagining that classic record.
Well, so the concept for why I'm doing, let's start at the end and we'll work backwards. How I got inspired to do this was really thinking about my friend Sandy Proman and it's kind of the last conversations that I had with him in the hospital before he passed, and saying that I was going to make sure that people didn't forget about this record and all of that, and getting a lot of email messages and Facebook and all this stuff, people saying, oh, you should remix your original demos, and put it out because there were songs that were left off. And I had actually asked the Blue Oyster Cult guys if I could go in and remix those songs that were left off and add it to the box set, a few years ago in 2016. And they didn't, they said, oh, no, we can't find the tapes and all of this stuff. So I thought, well, one of the things about it was that the record had never been played live, and that was a pet peeve with me, was that they never went out and played the songs. I wasn't in the group at the time, so they didn't even really know how to play the songs. I mean, they're not that complicated, but it would have required them learning it and whatever. So I thought, well, I'm gonna learn how to play these songs live with just me and a guitar, just the most basic way of doing it, and just bring it down to the basics. And so I was doing that and doing some live streaming on YouTube and and Facebook too, but Facebook is, it's not good for live streaming. So anyway, I mean, you have to have the orientation, like this, not like that. So
right.
It's one of the issues, but and especially I wanted to do it with a duo with my friend David. And so we tried that. And the thing is that the fan reaction was very intense. So I was like, well, maybe we should just record them over again, like this, with just a guitar and a bass and, a bunch of singing. So we started doing that. And of course, we got about, maybe 3 or 4 songs done. And then there was the quarantine. So we couldn't get together as a group, we had actually 4 people in the beginning. We had David, Justin Robinson on drums, and Mookie Thomas on keyboard. So there was bass, drums, guitar, and keyboard. So, but then they couldn't come because Mookie got bronchitis, oddly, right before the thing happened. So she couldn't make it. And then Justin, his job got busy, and so he could, his time was very limited. And then, of course, then there was the quarantine. So I kind of carried on with what we'd done, and brought those songs more or less to fruition. And then when it finally eased up, I brought David Hirschberg back, and he sang all the background vocals and played all the bass parts. So. And I had a rhythm guitar that he played on Astronomy, from the very first demo that we did of it. And I loved how he just hit that one chord just right. So I used his guitar on the intro to Astronomy, and then I played all the other guitars. So so as I was doing it, I was saying to myself, well, I'm not really doing this to launch my solo career. I have a solo career. I've done a lot of different things. I've played on all kinds of records, and I think somebody told me that I've played on 68 records so far in my life. So that have been released. So starting in 68 with Tom Paxton and doing his folk record, but so I don't need to do that, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to pay tribute to the genius of Sandy Pearlman, because he really was the smartest guy I ever knew in my life. I mean, and he was a good friend. He was like, he would give me money if I needed money. If I needed to go somewhere and I didn't have a car, he would let me take his car. He'd give me clothing. He would take the clothes. He literally gave this jacket off my back one winter, off his back. He took it off and gave it to me and said, you need this more than I do. I've got 1 million jackets at home, because he came from money. His parents were pretty wealthy, and he never seemed to ever have to worry about money, but he took care of me too. So that was quite good. He was a great mentor and a great guy. So this record is my tribute to him.
Is it true that the original Imaginos was kind of going to be a solo record for you anyway?
Yes, that's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. And it was weird because it was at a time when the record business all of a sudden started changing, and it's still to this day kind of retain that aesthetic where so we're in the middle of making this concept record, we'll say, or it's a concept album where it's telling a story. All the stories relate to each other. They intertwine nicely, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, or Dark Side of the Moon, or any of these great records that we loved. And in the middle of it, we're in the studio, we're recording, and the executives from Columbia Records, my friend Paul, who came, and he brought the head of the label at the time. I think it was Donnie Einer. But anyway, he came and he gets out of the car, this guy, and he says, I don't want to hear anything but the single. What's the single? I'm like, single? Nobody told me we were supposed to have a single. What do you mean? So, it's the same thing as right now, I got a deal with Deco Records, which is distributed by Warner's ADA, and on my and my brother's imprint label, Rock Heart. And Deco said to me, "What's the single?"
Something's going to change, right?
I don't know what's the single. Every song is different. Every song is weird. There's nothing that sounds like a single to me, nothing screaming single. I said, well, Black Telescope is the shortest song. That's the only song that's under 4 minutes. Actually, the only song that's under 5 minutes too, I think. Well, I think Gil Blanco County is 4 minutes and 50 something seconds. So, but that is really a weird song. That's totally not a single. I mean, you want something that kind of pumps people up a little bit. So I thought Black Telescope might be good for that. The second single is totally not a single. It's going to be, this is next week. A week from this Friday, we're going to have the second single, which is Blue Oyster Cult, which is the first song that was ever written in this song cycle, before Workshop of the Telescopes, which was the original Black Telescope, was on Blue Oyster Cult's first record. And I changed the title to Black Telescope because it just seemed like you kept singing Black Telescope. It seems much easier to say Black Telescope. It sounds interesting. What could it be? Is it sexually suggestive, or, and I think that, I think it was on purpose. It was purposely uh, I'm going to do full screen here, purposely suggestive, with the doctors and the wives. And, and I thought at the time that Sandy had written it about when we had the band house in Great Neck, New York. Across the street was this big mansion, and it was this doctor lived there with his very beautiful wife. And so we would always speculate, are they smooching, are they, whatever. And I think Sandy, that's how the doctors and the wives got in there, I believe, is Sandy was kind of making fun of us, for being interested in this couple that lived across the street. But but really it's more about that whole Imaginos aesthetic of being able to see with your mind, and how much more accurate that could be than what you actually see with your own eyes,
Mm.
and really also talking about the properties of light, and because the Maginot story. Okay, so now I'll go into this to what it means. The essence of the Maginot story is that Imaginos is a character that could be an alien from outer space, or he could be a regular human with just some special qualities. But he Imaginos, it could be, Desdenova is really a female name, as Alan Lemire has pointed out many times. And Sandy Perlman was like, well, he could be female too, he could be female, which, it sounds funny to say that. Yeah, he could be female. But anyway, so it could be a man or a woman. It could be a fish. It could be a bird. It could be a bug. It could be a space alien. So that this is kind of the part of the aesthetic. But this being goes into the jungle of Mexico and discovers a mirror. It's been buried, and he somehow it's been excavated. Maybe there was a archaeological dig, and they find this mirror. And of course, Imaginos takes the mirror, steals it, and brings it back to England to present to his granddaughter for her birthday. And of course, the granddaughter loves the mirror, but then it turns out that the mirror starts causing chaos in people's lives. Now, this does not happen in this record. This is what happens in the next record. So originally, Imaginos, not only was it supposed to be my solo record, but it was supposed to be the first of 3 records. It was going to be 3 records. It was going to be, Imaginos was going to be the first one. And then the next one was going to be Bombs Over Germany. And then the third one was going to be the Mutant Reformation. So the first one sort of sets the scene of these characters. So every song is like I am the one you warn me of. And Del Rio, it's I've lived upon the edge of chance, and I guess the third song is more like a descriptive third person talking about the character. And then, yeah, so, but a lot of the songs are in the first person. So, and that's on purpose. So is that he's expositing his, his character and what you can expect from Imaginos. So the next one is going to be where things go sideways. So, but they already did a little bit in this one, because some people were saying, well, what's Bad Oats in Town? What's Gil Blanco County got to do with all of this? And the thing is that Gil Blanco County was always supposed to be the song that was going to be before the song Blue Oyster Cult. Now, Blue Oyster Cult, one of the lyrics goes, left to die by 2 good friends, abandoned me and put to sleep. Now, you would say, why did his friends, want him dead? Why did they try to kill him? Okay. And you would think that looking at those lyrics, but if you look at Gil Blanco County and you realize that when Sandy is saying Bad Oats in Town, he's not saying it's an allegory for a disease, that there's something that kills people, that makes them sick, you know, and possibly dead. And so after that song, it's it seems logical that Imaginos, who is on the ship, you know, he's trying to get, you know, back to England or whatever, that he's contracted this disease, this plague. And so they put him ashore to get him off the ship so that he doesn't infect anybody else. And because they figure he's going to die anyway, might as well die on land. You don't want him to die at sea. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
that's kind of how he gets there in that position, you know. And then, of course, he gets saved by the Blue Oyster Cult, which are clearly by this point the aliens. They are the aliens that come to help out humanity, and they come back in the Mutant Reformation, because after the half-life time, they come back again to save humanity once again.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. Looking
Yeah,
back on your time with Blue Oyster Cult, it's such a cool time in rock history. Things were
yeah.
just like so exciting, you know, back then. What really stands out to you about that period in rock history?
You know, I don't think I really appreciated it at the time. I just thought this is how it is, you know. This is how Alice Cooper does it, and this is how Aerosmith does it, and this is how we all do it, you know. And you know, it was a rock and roll bubble. I mean, I guess, you know, if you're young, if you're a K-pop band, or, you know, you're one of these, you know, oh, I can't think of the guys now. Greta Van Vliet, or, you know, these young people that are popular and making, you know, good music. You know, they probably have the girls, you know, lining up like they used to for us, or Aerosmith, or, oh Lord, we played a gig once with Al Green. Oh my God, it was like the hotel was just swarming with girls. It was crazy. Crazy, crazy. It was like, you know, you know, I guess, you know, he was already a big star then, and but it was one of these. It was like a motel, you know. There was no indoor hallway. It was everything is the outside. So, you
Mhm.
know, it's like a pretty basic thing. But yeah. So yeah, it was a great time. You know, it was a great time for music. It was a great time for selling records. I mean, you know, now if you sold 1 million copies of a record, that would be phenomenal. You only have to. I think somebody told me that you only need 750 records to chart.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. If you sell set per week.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping that I can do that. I get some mail. Okay, I'll look at it later. Okay, thanks.
Well, what are your thoughts on the state of rock and roll today? Do you think it's still in a good place?
Oh well, you know, I think people are still making great music, and you do have, you know, like I say, you have you know, your Billie Eilish, and you know, who's made a great record in her bedroom, essentially. And so you do have, occasionally you'll have somebody like that, but there's so many people that do music like that that never have that kind of success. So, and I'm not exactly sure what it is she has that puts her above, you know, some of the other people that I know that do this kind of stuff. Uh, Maybe it's because she has a little bit of a team with her brother, and you know, so she's not really doing it all by herself. Um, or maybe it's the support of her family. I'm not sure. You know, I don't really know. I know that, you know, Taylor Swift definitely had support of her family, you know, when she was getting started. So she was not alone either. I think that you do need a team. You know, I think people, you know, it helps. I have put out most of my records that I put out since not being in Blue Oyster Cult have not had a record company. So it just happened that when we were making 11 Even, we were approached by this guy who I've known for many years, since the Brain Surgeons, my band before Blue Coupe, and he wanted to manage us. And Dennis Dunaway was like, "Well, I'm still signed with Shep Gordon. I really can't sign with another manager. I have a manager." I said, "Well, why isn't Shep getting us any gigs?" So eventually what happened was Joe and I signed with Jeff Keller, in the Artery Foundation. And he hooked us up with Deco, not Decca, Deco Records. And they let us have our imprint label, but also, they got us hooked up with the publicity, with Chip and all of those people. So all of a sudden, it's like, this is the 15th interview I've done in a week.
Wow.
So, it's kind of funny because I say, well, they've got me scheduled for, the next like 3 or 4 weeks, of doing like 4 or 5 a day. So I was like, I'm going to be saying the same thing over and over, but every single one has been different. Every single one.
And this is the best. So.
And this is the best. Yes. Well, definitely the most attractive host.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll take it. Well, I wanted to get your thoughts on Eddie Van Halen and his passing.
Oh, well, it's sad, but I had heard that he had some medical issues. And so, I never knew him. I never met him. We never toured with Van Halen. Oh, well, no, that's not right. We did. We played 2 shows in the South. I can't remember. One was in Texas at the Astrodome. Yeah, the Astrodome. And the other was, I think, in somewhere down south. It would have been in Alabama or something, but it was 2 huge indoor shows, and the bill was REO Speedwagon opened, Blue Oyster Cult followed, then Van Halen, then Heart was the
Wow, that'd be
headliner.
awesome.
It was a great show. It's a great show, even though REO was on the bill. We know them a long time, so we've been playing with them for years. But when and that was the first time I had ever seen them live. I saw them subsequently a few times where I went to their show. But that time when I saw them, I was like, I want to get this guy, Diamond Dave. I want him to sing on Imaginos. He should be one of the singers. He should play one of the characters, maybe the sea captain or something. I thought he would be great at that. But who knows? Maybe the next record I can get him to do it.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know Sandy Pearlman was like, him? You sing better than him. I said, I know, but I just like his whole thing. I always did. I like his whole persona and stage presence and his pattern. It's all great. It's really great. I think he's a great rock and roll character.
Mm-hmm. So what are you most...
But as far as Eddie, I think it's tragic that, he's passed, and, it's nice that he has a son who's carrying on, his tradition and his bandmates. I had thought that there was some bad blood between him and Michael Anthony, but it seems like that wasn't really ever the case, that, that Anthony was playing with Sammy and he was fine, not letting Wolfgang play the bass, it's fine with him, and it was nice. I also thought it was very, very nice that Wolfgang got to play with his dad for a while,
Right. No, I agree.
I think it was a great move, that he took his son, or his son took him out on the road. I think it was more like that, but whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, he was playing right up until the end. So God bless him. He had a good life, and he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, and I think it's great that his son is kind of carrying on the legacy, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So what are you most excited about when it comes to your fans hearing this reimagined version of Imaginos?
Oh, well, I'm hoping that, when they hear some of the more crazier, well, I think I threw down the gauntlet with the Black Telescope because that's quite a bit different from the Blue Oyster Cult, which was very rockish, and this is, of course, I mean, a pretty obvious take on a Celtic reel, or a sea shanty, or one of those kind of songs that sailors would sing. So I thought that would be really funny to put these like very esoteric lyrics into a body sailor kind of tune. So I think it works.
No,
Definitely puts you
definitely.
in a place, and hopefully that they will be able to follow the story. They'll say, oh, now I get a better idea about what this is, but it's still mysterious to me, which it is. Sandy's language was very complicated. Just that Black Telescope lyric, it's like, I put out a Russian lyric video. I translated it into Russian with the help of one of the fans from Russia. This guy Ivan Ivanov, and so he wrote to me and said, I heard you were doing Imaginos. Would you like to translate some of the lyrics into Russian? So I said, yeah. First single's Black Telescope. Can you translate that? So he said, yeah. So then he gave me a translation, and below the translation was a literal translation back into English of what he had written. And because he said there are things that we don't have any expressions for, like, and I know a thing or two. So in Russian, what he wrote was, and my shoes are not laced with bark.
Wow.
Because really poor people from the farms and stuff, in the old days, they would have to make their shoes out of birch bark, and they would actually use the bark to make the laces for the shoes. So that was kind of like, I'm a sophisticated person, he was saying. But through the course of trying uh, to explain to him what all the words meant, I started having to look them up. Like, I always heard this Undine, and I knew that there was a club in Manhattan called Undine's, that it was the first place in New York City that the Doors had played. So I knew that about Undine's as a club, but I didn't know what Undine, the power that was Undine. I was like, how is that relating to the club? Or so I looked it up, and Undine is actually like a Hungarian folk tale about a sea sprite who's very
Oh,
powerful, and she saves the sailors when the ships are, going, in this big storms. She saves the sailors. So it was like, oh, and it's a little tiny sprite with big power. So that in the power that was Undine. Salamander Drake. What was that? Uh, I think that, I mean, the salamander, of course, is a lizard, and a drake is usually referring to a duck. Is that a duck lizard, or, I mean, so there was all these things that, you couldn't really, but it helped me understand some of the language that he had used in this thing, and how it might relate to the story. So, but yeah, you can spend a lot of time with these lyrics on Google.
I have to ask, did you ever think that the cowbell would become such a phenomenon in pop culture?
I didn't even think that. I mean, I knew we had a hit with "Don't Fear the Reaper," but I didn't even think that would be around for, what is it now? 76 to uh 2020. So it's 20, 40,
A
44
lot of
years
years.
later, that it would still be like relevant. That you'd still
Right.
be hearing it in a brand new product, like a movie or a game, or anything like that. So the cowbell, when I heard about this, I was like, how could he even hear it? It's so down there in the mix. And it doesn't even sound like it. It sounds like a woodblock or something. How did he even know that it was a cowbell? I mean, this cowbell was, you know, I remember, when David Lucas, who was the actual producer who asked me to play the cowbell, uh, I remember saying, cowbell, really? It's going to mess everything up. It's just going to be, it's going to be too distracting, here we got this wonderful love song, with the hypnotic guitar part and the smooth vocals and, not like our usual Blue Oyster Cult song. And he's like, well, make it a little more Blue Oyster Cult. We'll put a cowbell in it, so, so, so I did it. And I said, David, this is too much. He said, oh, we'll wrap some tape around it. I said, okay. So I played it and he goes, yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm like, I don't know. What do you think, Don? Don's like, it's still kind of loud. I said, I'll play it with a timpani mallet because I had one in my stick bag. So I took that out and I play it. And Don goes, that's it. That's it. The timpani mallet, it sounds like. So that's what it was. And I couldn't even imagine how he could know that sound was a cowbell or even hear that sound, because when they're mixing, I'm like, Shelly Yakis was the mixer. I'm Shelly, can you turn it down a little bit? He's like, yeah, it's barely audible now. I said, okay, that's good.
Well, it worked.
It was amazing. I mean, that just shows you the brilliance of Will Ferrell. And, I'd heard that they'd run that song in practice, and it would that skit rather, and it didn't go over. They had an audience there, but they didn't seem to respond to it. So right before they did it, Will Ferrell borrowed one of the girls' blouses, and it didn't fit him at all. And that took it. That was it. It was like all of a sudden everybody couldn't stop laughing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's classic.
Classic.
Yeah. Well, Albert, it's been great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Is there anything else you want to add?
Oh, just, look forward to hearing this one. And, after this one will be the next one.
Yeah, that's so exciting. You said 3, right? You're planning on 3?
Yes, there's going to be 3. And the other thing that I'm looking forward to is I'm growing this beard for the video. And I'm looking forward to shaving it off.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and stay safe.
Okay, you too.